Welcome to the computer-based testing presentation for the Jewish Education Project. So we're pretty excited that some of the schools in that network are interested in CBT. We understand that this may be the first time that you're hearing real information about computer-based testing. So we're gonna start. Let me get my slides to work. We're gonna start with an overview of the computer-based testing program, past administrations. We're going to talk a little bit about the CBT status, where are we in the state with computer-based testing, and how one might take the first steps to transition, how one might order CBT, new features about CBT for this year. Hi, Nabila, we can see you. Good deal. Great. Okay. And then we'll go into a live demonstration of the New York State question sampler. Okay, and at any time, we only have 2 different groups that are joining. So stop us at any time and ask questions, because this is absolutely a conversation. Okay, so we like to answer questions. So this is a map of the state of what operational CBT looked like last year in the computer-based testing administration. One moment, what is it?
Mute your computer. It's doing.
Oh, my computer. Mute it?
Yeah.
Hey, Heather.
Feedback. Yeah.
Yeah, Joe?
Maybe you should introduce yourself.
Oh, Joe, that's a great one. And I don't know what you mean by mute my computer. Okay. All right. So, great. Hi. Hello out there. I am Heather Klusendorf. I am the head of the computer-based testing program for grades 3 through 8, ELA, and math. And this is absolutely my passion. I've been doing this as my 3rd year. It's also the 3rd year of the operational program. And we like to travel throughout the state. We like to go and talk to people about computer-based testing. And so if you need any support, we also have a team here at NYSED, and we're here to help. There we go. And I like jazz hands, so that's important. Okay, great. All right, thanks, Joe. All right, so we're going to continue. So this map of the state gives you an idea of the schools by county that participated in computer-based testing. As you can see, in Long Island, we have a great representation. We're very proud of that. We work closely with the folks at Eastern Suffolk and in Nassau and in Westchester in those areas for the rollout of computer-based testing. The total number of schools that ordered computer-based testing last year was 662, and I am very happy to announce that this morning we have surpassed that number. Yay! Okay. So we're seeing that at least more than 200 new schools have elected to administer computer-based tests this next spring. Okay. So while this is the 3rd year of operational CBT, this is the 4th year of the computer-based testing program. The first year was a pilot where schools throughout the state could elect to administer the field tests on computer. And more than 900 schools, more than 60,000 students took the computer-based field test that year. That proved that we could do it in New York State, and as a result, we launched the operational CBT program. And the first year, which was 2017 test administration, we had 184 schools that administered operational CBT. While that number is really low, it represents approximately 4% of schools in the state that order the state exams. It allowed us an opportunity to work directly with all of those schools. We like to have a very personal relationship with our schools. We like to hear feedback. We need to know what it's going to take to transition all schools throughout the state to computer-based testing. Last year, we dramatically increased our numbers. We had more than 15% of all schools that ordered testing on computer. That represented more than 145,000 students. The trend is that those schools that administered computer-based tests in previous years, when they come back the 2nd year, they expand subjects and grade levels. And we are very proud to say that all 184 schools that administered CBT in the first year came back for year 2. So we're also expecting that most of the schools from last year will be coming back to computer-based testing this next year. So when we talk about rolling out and transitioning CBT throughout the state, we couldn't do it without the colleagues at our regional information centers. They are our first line of support in the field. And for the schools in the Jewish Education Project Network, they are working with Eastern Suffolk. So Eastern Suffolk is the RIC. And the Regional Information Center is very important as far as they all have experience with how to administer CBT. They are experts. We work with them weekly and more when we need to have emergency meetings or we need to find out what's actually happening out in the field. We ask our RIC colleagues. So, and the RIC colleagues are the ones that are also going to advise and assist with schools submitting student data. When schools submit student data, then we are populating the Nextera admin system with those students because that's where testing is actually administered on the school end. It's from Nextera admin. Last year, more than 40 religious and independent schools administered CBT, so we're very pleased to have them along. And what happens is whenever we get new school networks, we learn new things. We need to know more about, for instance, what our schools in the Jewish Education Project need in order to transition to computer-based testing. So for CBT, there are 3 primary systems, but there is also a public question sampler, and we're going to show you that today. The question sampler is web-based. You get to it via the Google, but it has the practice test for subjects and grade levels where students can become familiar with the computer-based testing platform. Now, the Nextera test delivery system are the bells and whistles, the navigation, the online highlighter, the actual user interface that the test comes through via a secure browser. So the secure browser locks down a student's computer so that a student can't, for instance, go to the Google during testing to look up an answer or anything like that. So the student is only testing via the secure browser. And the practice tests are also available in the secure browser so the students can get that experience and understand what's possible on the day of testing. Nextera Admin is the online test administration system where schools will set student testing accommodations or set not tested codes, for instance, for those students that may be taking the Regents exam in 7th and 8th grades. But it's where they manage students. You can see what students have logged into the test. You can see what students have submitted the test. But that is the crux of where it all happens on the day of operational CBT. And then ScorePoint is the centrally hosted software application that just means that you get to it via the Google. It's online, where all the students' constructed responses that are entered on computer are also scored on computer. And I believe that the schools in the Jewish Education Project are using OSC as your scoring vendor. What that means is nothing changes, right? So once students submit the test, then there's nothing further that the schools need to do. OSC takes over from there. Okay, and those responses are automatically electronically transmitted to OSC for scoring. So we get asked a lot about the year 2020. Okay, anybody out there heard the year 2020? Hands up. No one? Okay, you have. Yes, you have. I know you have. So the year 2020 is the year that the requirement year that all schools must be transitioned to CBT. It is the only requirement that is out there from the Board of Regents. However, that was set in 2016. In 2017, the first year of the operational CBT program, we listened to the field. We rolled across the state in road shows from Long Island to Western New York to the North Country, and we found out that our schools weren't in a position to make that 2020 date realistic. So the New York State Education Department, we backed off that date, and we changed our wording on online websites and what we actually present to the field, and we indicate that it's still the goal. It remains the goal. Absolutely, that is what we would like to see. So we continue to encourage our schools to transition, to take that first step to administer computer-based tests, but it does remain for this next year an option. Okay, so schools have to elect computer-based tests over the paper tests. So the department is working to set a new requirement, but that has not been issued yet. However, I want everyone to be aware because you may be asked about 2020. We get asked about it. We get, many email at least every week, and anytime we go to a presentation, we get asked about the year 2020. So you just want folks to be aware that's the only date that's out there, but it remains a goal of the department. Okay? So remember to stop us at any time. You can also chat questions to us, and we can stop and talk about any topics that you may have. Okay? So the CBT requirement. So the CBT requirement is that all students in a grade level that are testing on computer must test on the same session on the same day, with sessions 1 and session 2 being administered on consecutive days. Okay? The CBT testing window is a 6-day testing window. 6! Lots more days than the 3-day testing window for paper-based tests. Okay? So that allows the schools, say, that may have 3 grade levels that are testing on CBT, to administer, say, grade 3 on days 1 and 2, grade 4 on days 3 and 4, grade 5 on days 5 and 6, right? So we allow for that flexibility in scheduling. And additionally, we allow for flexibility in ordering. A school can start, they can take that first step into computer-based testing simply by testing 1 subject and 1 grade level. For instance, we know that some networks, some religious and independent school networks, are planning to test just grade 5 ELA this spring, right? They're going to see what it's like. What more do they need in their schools in order to transition more grades? Is everything that the state is telling me true? Is it actually as simple as they say it is? We promise. Okay? And then another requirement for CBT is that schools indicate their lead scoring entity for CBT scoring. In most cases, for the Jewish Education Project, that will be OSC as the scoring vendor. And then schools will verify technology readiness on Nextera admin. Okay? So we'll show you some slides in just a minute for what technology readiness, what does that mean? This may be something that you're hearing for the first time, but we want to let you know that on cbtsupport.nysed.gov, there are a lot of different articles and reference guides, quick reference guides, to walk you through anything that has to do with CBT. And you should always remember, you're never alone. We're right here. We're human, real humans, right here for you. Okay? So why CBT? Why would a school do it if they're totally comfortable with paper testing and paper booklets? Because we want to prepare our students for a 21st century, experience, career and college readiness after P12, right? We want for our students to have a daily experience with daily technology integrated into the classroom, and quite frankly, students like it. They like testing on computer. They like typing. We hear from schools throughout the state that they testify that the students, their hands don't cramp while they're writing, right? They like that. For test administration, there are no test booklets to transport. You're not walking up and down stairs and putting booklets into safes, taking them out of safes. You never lose an answer sheet with computer-based testing. You want to know why? Because there are no answer sheets. That's right. There's no paper rattling during test taking, and the fewer distractions in the classroom is something that we hear from our students, because each year during field testing on computers, me and some colleagues from the Office of State Assessment, we go into schools and we get to observe students taking the field tests. And at the end of that, if we're really lucky, we get to talk with those students. And the things that they tell us are things that we would not have come up with, the things that we observe. For instance, the tools that they like. Students like the line reader. They like the page slider. The first year, they really liked the highlighter. But they report that there are fewer disruptions in the classroom. No rulers dropping to the floor, no protractors, no pencils scurrying everywhere. And then our administrators and students, they like the online testing accommodations, such as TestRed. And we'll go into some of the accommodations here in a few slides. Scoring administration is simpler. If you're sending scorers to OSC to score your state exams, then you're going to have happier scorers. We can say that because we know it. We hear it. We had more than 40 scoring consortia throughout the state last year, and every one of those scoring consortia reported that their the scoring time was cut in half versus paper testing. And there's a lot of different reasons for why that is, but one of the reasons is that a scorer is not getting a physical book and then having to turn to page 35, find item 35. They don't have to do that. The electronic scoring, the items are just served automatically, 35, 35, 35. And we hear that our scorers, they get into a rhythm and a cadence. And it's easier for them to score when they remember, you know, exactly what they previously scored. And the fact that the students' responses are just served to them automatically on screen. Additionally, with electronic alerting and the way to communicate directly with the scoring director online, it makes the scorers happier because, for instance, say there's somebody at a scoring table that's not pulling their weight, right? Maybe they're not scoring as much as the others. The scoring director is seeing that, and perhaps we'll call her Lois. Perhaps Lois is only scoring one constructed response an hour, where everyone else at the table is scoring, you know, on time. You know, they're scoring like multiple responses in an hour. Scorers aren't getting frustrated because the scoring director is seeing that. Perhaps she's pulling Lois aside and she's saying, hey, you know what, Lois, maybe you need more training. Maybe something else is going on, you know, at home that we need to talk about. So it actually reduces stress and frustration among scorers when they're scoring online electronically. The transition checklist is a 7-point checklist that we put together last year to assist a lot of our schools with how do we take that first step? What are the questions that I need to answer in order to even consider computer-based testing, right? Like the first thing is that you need to figure out how you're going to order it. You need to figure out the subjects and the grade levels. You need to count computers. If I've got 40 students in grade 3 and I want them to test on computer, but I've only got 20 computers, how am I going to make that happen, right? Maybe you're working with your regional information center about what have other districts and schools done when they had similar situations. You're going to make sure that you have testing coordinator training planned. You're going to try and attend some road shows, work through technology readiness requirements, and also make sure that you're working with your RIC on your data requirements. So this transition checklist can assist any school with answering that question, can I test on computer this year? And we think that most of you will be able to say yes. So students like the online tools. This is an example of some of the online tools. You can see the equation editor constructed response box on the upper left. It's where students get to use buttons for building mathematical expressions, or they can use their keypad, or they can use the drawing tool, which is a new enhancement for this year. We're gonna show you a little bit of that live today. On the upper right, you'll see an example of the review screen. Hands down, students love this. They, you know, like those scorers that would have to get a booklet and turn to 35 in each booklet, our students, if they skip an item, say this student on screen has skipped number 2, that student can see that on the review screen and they can jump directly to number 2, right? They don't have to ruffle through a book to find it. So there are different clues and helps, such as being able to set a note, set a bookmark, or write a note for yourself within the online testing system. First year that we launched operational CBT and we went out and observed field tests, all the students were using the highlighter. It was so exciting. It was that shiny, you know, spinny thing. The second year, those students were familiar with the highlighter and they weren't using it. They were using it only if it was something that they were taught with daily instruction. And we heard this directly from the teachers. So that was pretty neat. So just to FYI, all students get excited about the highlighter first thing. But then on the lower right, you'll see an example of the answer eliminator. We were very surprised to hear that students love this. This was one of the #1 features they loved this year when we observed field testing and got to speak with them, because it's assisting them with organizing their thoughts, right? Because like, and then they can perhaps eliminate a few answers and then come back to it later, right? And then they don't have to rethink through what they've already determined is not the answer. just gives you an overview of all of the online tools. So there are some tools that are the same between both ELA and math, such as the highlighter, the bookmarks, the notes. And the line reader is only in CBT ELA, but we have heard from a lot of different schools this fall as we go out to promote CBT that our students want the line reader for CBT math. So we're going to try and make that happen this year. So stay tuned for that one. But there's an online ruler, a protractor, the calculator, and a reference sheet for those grades that use the calculator or the reference sheet on the state exam. Testing accommodations. Teachers and students love these features, especially our students that a testing accommodation allows them to test independently, such as text-to-speech. Text-to-speech, you can see the player on the right in the middle of the screen on a math item, allows a student to test perhaps in the same classroom with headphones on, right, where the robots are reading the test to the student. The student can move the player around on screen. The student can set a different speed, or they can play from here. They can set the cursor within an ELA passage, or they can just play the answers or just play the question. So we hear wonderful feedback on the text-to-speech testing accommodation and the fact that our students with disabilities really like using it. Now, we also have an option for test read with human reader on computer, and we'll go over that in a few moments. You can also see an example of reverse contrast. And then at the bottom, there's the icon menu in the NextEra admin system that allows for an administrator to turn on and off testing accommodations for a student. And of course, testing accommodations must be set before a student sits down and opens up the test. But all of those things, when you, Kiara likes to tell people that when they order CBT that, you know, welcome to the CBT family. When you join the CBT family, we provide a lot of training, right? And make sure, and we message you a lot, and your RIC messages you a lot about now is the time to set those student testing accommodations and how can you review those before students sit down to test. So the test read accommodation is always a hot topic. The test read accommodation, the accommodation is called test read, but there are different ways to deliver that accommodation. So text-to-speech, for instance, with the robots and the headphones, if that's how a student is having the test read accommodation delivered to them, that's the mechanism. Text-to-speech is the mechanism, and it's what one is setting in NextEra admin. But there are 3 different ways for test read to be delivered to a student. So students may have an IEP or a 504 plan that requires that the student test on paper. Okay, so we hear about this a lot. Even though the requirement is that all students in a grade level must test on computer, the 504 plan and the IEP, they trump all, right? So if a student has an IEP or a 504 plan that indicates testing on paper, they very well may be testing on paper in a CBT classroom. In that instance, in the NextEra admin system, the test administrators are marking those students with a tested on paper code. Okay? Read aloud by human is where a human reads the test to the student, who is then entering responses on computer. And we hear a lot that this accommodation is used for sometimes groups of students, right? They may have one human reader reading to maybe, say, 5 students that have the test read accommodation, and they've marked read aloud by human. The bonus for marking read aloud by human in the NextEra test delivery system is ensuring that that student is testing on Form A. For ELA last year, there were 24 different test forms. So by virtue of using the read aloud by human accommodation in NextEra admin, we're ensuring that that student has Form A and that that human has Form A, and that they have the same test for the human to read to the student. Okay, and then the student is entering responses on computer. And test read, online only. The student is either independent, testing with headphones, maybe there's somebody somewhere else listening to the test, but that is online only. There's no paper component. Okay. Any questions as we've gotten through the online tools and accommodations? Right. Okay, guys, we're going to keep rolling. Here we go. Okay, so this gives you an example of what that administration system looks like that I've mentioned a few times. So we've got the home page on the right, and then when school's logged in, they're identified by their school. And then it is a roles-based website. So like a principal has different roles than, say, a testing coordinator. And then there are a lot of different reports that one can see in the Nextera admin system. And then you can also see what students have logged into session 1, what time they logged in. You can see how many questions they've progressed through. So it's a really helpful website, and there are a lot of different status reports. All right, so how excited are you? Now you're excited. You've heard everything that we've said, and you're like, how do I order? How can I order today? Because we have operators standing by. We don't. There's just one guy. His name's Brian. But if you want to order CBT, this is what it looks like. Okay? So remember, you can order just one subject at one grade level. But schools will indicate the quantity of how many students are testing on computer in very much the same way, exactly the same way that they indicated paper. You can see in the example here on screen that we're indicating that the computer format, the format for testing is computer, and then indicating I have 60 students in my grade that will be testing, okay? And then the next line is always in the ordering system, the line for test read quantities. So out of 60 students, perhaps you have 5 students that make use of the test read accommodation. We don't care at this time when you are, oh, you can't see the, okay, so Rochelle can't see the example. Rochelle, can you see slide 16?
I don't see any slides.
Oh, you don't?
No, I've been listening, but I don't see anything. They should be on the bottom?
She's gonna click the link. Did she click the link? They should be just on screen. Can you make sure that you're actually in the window for the webinar? Because we know that you're logged in. We've seen you.
I see you.
Hi.
Now I see you full screen.
Oh, she doesn't have the presentation.
Oh. All right, let me try something. Let's see if I kill my video, if you can see it. Okay. Let's see here. How do I do this now? Okay, what do you see now?
Just an HK.
Okay, so you still just see me.
Yeah.
All right.
I can see.
All right, now you can see me. Now is that better? Okay, you can see me.
I see you now. There's a third option for a view here, but
Yeah.
for some reason I can't click on it.
All right. All right, so,
I'll just listen.
okay. Well, let me just tell you that this slide is beautiful. So there's that. Okay?
Okay.
It's wonderful. Yeah. So also, perhaps, let's see here, Joe Stern, could you send the slides to Rochelle? She can then maybe follow along separately. And we're going to send these out.
Heather,
we'll send them to you.
Heather, I don't have the most updated version of the presentation.
You're right, because I didn't share it. One moment. Let me go ahead and send it on to you.
And I don't have Rochelle's email address, so
Right.
that doesn't help me either.
Yeah.
Unless Lisa can find
Do you
it.
see Rochelle's email address? Let's see what we can do there.
I can send it.
Here, I'm going to feel out.
There's 6 ways around.
You send it to the billion, then she'll have it anyway.
Have Rochelle email me.
What kind of problem is it?
Oh, yeah, Rochelle, can you put your email address in the chat?
I hit everything.
Yeah. By
Okay, and we'll also send
I gotta find the chat. Wait a minute. I'm not looking at the chat. I gotta figure out where the chat is.
Yeah.
Hold on.
Oh, look at that. I got her email. Oh, it was there for a moment. How do I get? Yeah, now I got to find the chat. This is fun.
Chat. Oh, here it is. If I push on the button that says chat, it works. There
Oh,
you
no
go.
way. Look at that. I'm going to do it. It does work. Great job. All All right, Michelle, Rochelle.
Here I am.
Thank
Yeah.
you. There we are. And please enjoy the slides.
You're sending them to my email address.
I am.
Great.
Okay, cool. All right, so now
I'm
I have to,
copying,
now I
yeah,
have to.
and I'm copying in everybody.
Great.
I'm gonna also copy my mom here. There we go. Everybody.
Oh, I'm sure she'll be thrilled.
All right, there we go, guys. Get it? All right. Just do that. Nothing. All right, and we're back. Boom. All right, and Rochelle, are you able to look at the PowerPoint while you're in the WebEx, do you think?
I'm trying to, it didn't come to me yet.
Oh, okay, yep, it's, it's gonna come through the tubes, but if you need to, you may need to hit escape to minimize the WebEx.
I'm going to do it on my tablet.
I
I'm
like
gonna
it.
look at the tablet while I'm looking at you.
Yep, you don't even need us anymore. You got this. You got this. All right, well, we'll just wait a minute because this is an exciting slide. Do you actually order the tests for your school?
I do.
Okay, so then you know what the ordering system looks like. Yep.
Yes.
Most times when we're out there, and like we could be presenting to a room of 100 people and nobody has seen the ordering system.
I've seen the ordering system, yes.
Beautiful. All right, so what we're looking at here is it is slide 16, and I'll just keep talking through it. It's where you indicate the quantities. It's the same. When you indicate quantities for paper-based testing, you're indicating quantities for computer-based testing. That just gives us an idea to estimate. We're not shipping anything to you. We do ship teachers' directions still in paper, but you're also indicating, do you have students that will make use of the test-read accommodation too?
Probably, yes.
Okay, then you'll still indicate those students on the test-read line as you would with paper, right?
Okay.
And do you have any students that are making use of oral translation? So
No.
Okay, great. All right. So any of our specials are indicated as test read. Okay. All right. And then have you already ordered your tests? Are you going back in? Okay, so
I've ordered everything.
okay. Are you planning? Do you think you'll do CBT this year?
We're not ready.
Oh, good. Okay. No,
But I'm doing
understand.
it so we can get ready.
Totally understand. All right. So when you go in and next year, when you order CBT, what you will do is on the first page, you'll indicate that you're requesting computer-based testing, and this is on slide 17. There's a new yes/no feature on the front page. When you indicate yes, then you see options to indicate the scoring vendor, okay? Because it's very important that if you're ordering CBT, we know where to send those those constructed responses for your students.
Okay.
Okay, and then after that, after you order CBT, then it's the school's responsibility to verify technology readiness. And do that on the Questar Nextera admin website. So after a school orders CBT, then within 24 hours, Questar sends them a VIP invitation, private party, to step behind the velvet rope and verify technology readiness. And if you can see slide 19, have the slides arrived there yet?
No.
No.
But it's okay. I hear you. I'm writing it all down.
All right, wonderful. Okay. For verifying technology readiness, then we have 10 requirements that a school needs to walk through, and we hope this is a working document, right? That you use it to go in and count the computers that you have in the school, to plan for staff training, to plan to attend training road shows, or find out when the webinars are, be familiar with CBT support. So you verify tech readiness, you enter the number of devices that you anticipate you'll be using this spring, and not because we're going to do anything with that, it doesn't magically make anything happen, but when you write to us closer to the administration window and say you're using iPads or you're using Chromebooks, we literally look up and we check to see what your school is using, and we make sure that you're aware of any latest information, right?
So iPads or Chromebooks are both fine.
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely. Okay, great question. So we allow for 4 different testing devices in New York State: iPads, Chromebooks, Windows machines, and Mac computers. And we also allow for touchscreen input on any of those devices. And last week, based on popular demand, since we kept getting inquiries about whether or not a school could use a stylus. We had previously in the past, we'd said no to styluses, but our schools demanded it this year. So on Friday, we released information where we're allowing use of a stylus, and that's only if a school will make sure that a stylus is available to any student that wants one, right? So we still have to make sure that, we're being fair, right? So then, finally, for on CBT technology readiness, then a school enter how many different contacts, like for instance, tech coordinators, et cetera, within the school who need vital information during the actual computer-based test. And we'll communicate directly with you. We'll let you know when it's time. Go ahead. The window's open. So it's pretty exciting. We will be launching our first operational CBT listserv in January this year after the ordering system closes, and so that we have that personal connection with those schools that are going to be administering CBT. Okay. So this is a diagram for how CBT scoring works, because again, we can't emphasize it enough, CBT scoring is one of those very important things that is part of technology readiness and part of the ordering system. But just a small diagram that shows that the test coordinator sets up the students and administers through NextEra admin. The students take the test, and then the students' responses are transmitted to Questar via a heartbeat, an electronic heartbeat that transmits responses in near real time every 60 seconds. So like say a student's computer dies, right? Within 60 seconds, all of that student's responses are already transmitted to Questar. But if a student's computer dies, the student just simply finds another computer or plugs in their computer, perhaps it died due to a low battery, and then the student logs back in and resumes testing. So Questar's, one of their claims to fame is that students don't lose responses. And then those responses are transmitted nightly to ScorePoint, and then we have scorers that are scoring on computer. This is an example of what a ScorePoint student response looks like for CBT math. Okay, so you can see students are responding. The equation editor is the tool that they use to construct their responses for math. They can use a variety of the buttons in the equation editor, or they can use their keyboard keys. And now this year, they can also use the drawing tool. Okay, and we like to, we focus on comparability. So if a student can do it in paper, then a student can do it on computer. Likewise, for scoring, you can see all the same scores are on the upper right, and even the non-score codes. It's an example of what a score response looks like in ScorePoint for CBT ELA. You can see exactly what the students type. And when you see this, we often hear, from the audience, isn't that amazing? And then they get it, it clicks, they realize, oh, my scorers don't have to decipher handwriting anymore. They don't have to guess at what a student might have been writing. That's right, with typing, it's much easier for scorers to actually arrive at what was the student trying to, what kind of information were they trying to impart. So now, the most exciting thing we're doing this year, that's right, jazz hands are up. Most exciting thing is the statewide CBT simulation. Last year, we had a very large district, Yonkers. Yonkers decided that for the first time, they were going to test all schools, that's 32 schools, all students, 11,000 students, both subjects, all grade levels. Wow. In order to prepare for that, what they did is they developed a dry run. They were going to act like it was the day of the operational test. And they invited us. They said, hey, NYSED, why don't you come and hang out in Yonkers? Yonkers is awesome. It's a magical place to me. I always think that. And guess what? It's directly across from the train station, so it's also easy to get to. So we go to Yonkers, and we sat in what they called their war room or their command center. And then we also invited Questar. And we hung out, and they had a direct line for schools to call to tell them what was it like for their schools that were going through the practice test. And they had all schools log into the same practice test in each grade level at the same time on one morning. And we had to find out, you know, what was the experience like. For instance, some of them realized maybe they need more than one proctor in the classroom. But even better, we took this experience and we shared it with our regional information centers, and then they shared it with their districts. And then soon, last year, before the operational window, we had all these different schools and districts that were running these dry runs, these simulations, and they were finding things like, for instance, computers that you know, no longer worked after the summer, or they found mice that didn't work. And, you know, we had one crafty little grade level, grade 7 students who they all turned their Wi-Fi buttons off, those cuties. So, of course, they couldn't download the test. So all these different things, and we collect feedback. Every time that a district runs one of these dry runs, they would send us their experience so that we could learn from them, and we could also share that with the rest of the state. Well, this year, we loved that experience so much that we're organizing the first ever statewide CBT simulation. We're offering it on 2 different days, and where in districts and schools throughout New York State, they're going to run a dry run. They're going to organize, they're going to pick a practice test out of the 3 that are available per grade level. They're going to use the secure browser login practice test where they actually get to use logins, right? So they'll print little login little login cards for their students. Now, the students are all using the same username and password because the secure browser practice tests have basically the same username and password per grade level. But however, these students are going to get experience actually logging into the secure browser. And it's going to allow a school to review their software, their hardware. Did we organize it correctly within the school? Did we have enough training? What more do our students need before that day of operational CBT? Okay. Now we're going to talk a little bit about what's new this year. Yay, the drawing tool. All right, so the equation editor drawing tool is new. We launched it in the field test this past spring. And we are very happy to report, first of all, this has never happened before, but this is the only feature functionality that we've launched in New York State that everybody loves. What? We got 0 hate mail about the drawing tool. 0. That never happened. So we're very proud of this, and we're rolling it out for the operational test this spring. And then also touchscreen support. We've already noted that earlier when we went over the devices. Now we are also allowing a stylus if a student wants one. And text-to-speech will work offline when a network connection is poor. That was a change last year that Questar made to the text-to-speech functionality. It wasn't a good fit for New York State, so we are ensuring that text-to-speech works offline, even if a student loses internet connection. And then we also have instructional tools this year, which are empty constructed response boxes that you too can use in the classroom for all your students to get experience typing in responses. Say a teacher will provide a question and the students will respond. And then a student's response recovery, because Questar says that no student responses are ever lost. This process is going to be automated this year, just in case when a student, if a student's computer dies, those responses are cached locally onto the student's computer, even if say the internet connection wasn't working to send those responses to Questar. We have a process to force those responses to go to Questar. Here it is, the drawing tool. Look at that, folks. Now, first of all, you should know I did not get my degrees in math, and I'm not an artist. Right? So these are my images, but these are examples of what students can do with the drawing tool, right? So they can add up to 5 drawings to any response. They can interchangeably use the keyboard and use the buttons. Whatever it takes for our students to be able to do CBT math, we're trying to provide it. And a student, so a student can arrive creatively at an answer, right? So this is an option. Student doesn't need to use it. But when we observed field testing this past spring, when we walked into third grade math classrooms, we saw that drawing tool pulled up on every screen. Those students were using it. They loved it. When we walked into older student classrooms, like 7 and 8, we might not have seen the drawing tool pulled up as much, but a great example is there was one school where a 7th grade, a girl, she drew out every one of her responses. I mean, just beautifully. This girl was an artist. I'd like to see what she could do with an Etch-a-Sketch, because she, like, absolutely was redrawing all of the questions and then the answers. And the principal told me that she's done that every year. She does that on her paper test too. So the drawing tool was really a success for her. Okay. So now let's talk a little bit about the instructional tools, and then we're going to try and show you we're going to show you the question sampler live today, folks. So our question sampler, and I'll show you how to navigate to it. It offers empty CR boxes. So what you see here on screen is this is a sampler that has 5 empty either equation editor for math or ELA response boxes. And this is where a teacher will provide a question in the classroom, and the students are typing the responses, and they're walking around, they're having conversations, because #NoPaper, right? We want our students to be working with computers as much as possible and with technology. So now, live, let's see here. Let me take a moment to stop sharing the presentation. Any questions, Rochelle?
No, I'm good.
Good. All right.
I see all the slides.
Oh, look at you. This is great. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to get to my Google. Go into the Google. Okay. All right. I am now in Google. Okay, and now I'm going to share my Google. Share my Google. Google. Okay. So, Rochelle, can you also see the screen yet? Or
I
did
see
you? Okay. Great. Good for you. Can you chat her the question sampler URL?
I have a question. Oh, it's okay, because I have a question sampler on here, but that's not.
Oh, you're fine then. Then you can follow along with me. That's great.
I have the slides. Yeah.
All right. Okay. Oh, well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually go to the question sampler and start in one of those slides. Let me see what slide it is. There's the direct URL to the question sampler.
I'll send it to her.
I'm on 27.
Yep. Well, Kiara's going to 27. Yep. And Kiara's going to send you that. And maybe you can also play around with it while we're going to it. So you've got the direct URL, but one thing that we want folks to know is that you can share this with your parents, right? This is publicly available on the Google. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to search on New York question sampler, and then in 5 easy clicks, I'm going to get to it. The first result takes me to a NYSED website and with details about the question sampler. And then in the middle of that second paragraph, I'm going to click on the link to the question sampler. Ooh, magic.
I have it.
All right, nice, right? See the magic. So first what we're going to do is you scroll down to the gray section in the middle of the question sampler, and we're going to select ELA. What grade level do you like best? Who are your favorite babies? Rochelle? What
Me?
grade do you? Yeah.
Oh, I don't know, 5th. My daughter
All right.
teaches.
Yeah. So I'm going to go to grade 5, and I'm going to there are 3 samplers per grade level. So I'm just going to select sampler 2, and I'm going to click test. The first screen that comes up allows for schools to play around with the accommodations, such as background color, answer masking. And as a reminder, the accommodations must be set, and they are guided by the 504 plan and the IEPs, but the online tools that we'll show you in just a second, those are available to all students. Okay? So students immediately see the directions that gives them a couple tips about navigation. Uh-oh. Let me see if I make that smaller. Oh no, I gotta move this around on screen. Okay. Yeah. And I'm gonna click through that and start the test. And then here I see on screen, the first 7 to 8 questions in any question sampler practice test are multiple choice. Okay, so a student can easily click an answer. Student can also use the answer eliminator that we showed earlier. Student can write notes. Okay. All right. And write notes to themselves. And the student can easily navigate among the questions or between the questions. They can skip questions. They can bookmark a question and come back to it. And the line reader. Oh, the babies love the line reader. All of them. They love moving it around on screen. It's just another, we found that while there are also fewer disruptions in the classroom, that some of these online tools really help our students to focus and really become engaged with the online test. Okay, so there's that line reader, and set another note. Okay. And then I'm going to keep navigating through, and I'm going to get to question 9. And here I have the constructed response box in front of me, where a student is going to respond by typing. Okay, so students can start working on something. They can come back to it. They can really marinate inside the CBT test, and then at the end of it, the student can hit the review screen. And we advise proctors in the school administrator's manual to go ahead and look at that review screen. Have your students hold up their hands, look at the review screen together, and make sure that the student realizes that, for instance, here me, I have I've only answered 3 out of 10 questions, right? So is that really what I intended to do? And here, say I set a note for myself on question 5. I can go back to that and I can, oh, I missed it. So here I'm going to answer. Okay? So it's the jumping around within the test that students really like. There are also Zoom and features. And then this page slider up at the top is one of those things that students love. They like to fill the screen with what they're working on. So say if I was working on a constructed response, I would slide it all over and I would fill the screen with my CR box. Okay, students love that. Go students. Okay, and then at the end, when a student is submitting the test, again, they're alerted to, hey, you have 5 unanswered questions. Are you sure you want to submit the test? And today I'm Slacker student. I'm like, yeah, I do. So I submit the test. Okay. So now let's take a look at, for grade 5, if I select the subject again, grade level, and I go to that select test menu, at the bottom, you see the ELA response box sampler. This is where those instructional tools are, where the teacher can actually have all the students launch the empty response boxes in the classroom to get classroom instruction, to start using it daily, right? Like our students are no longer writing on paper. Instead, they're responding online in the classroom. Okay. Do you have any questions about the question sampler, Rochelle? No? What about, who else? Do we have anybody else out there? We got Sarah and Nabila. Do you guys have any questions? Okay. Do we have another call-in user? Is someone else out there? Do you have any questions about CBT?
That's probably us. Heather.
Okay.
All
right.
Yeah.
And you guys know everything, Joe. So, all right, guys. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and submit this test, and then I am going to. Okay. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and take a look at math. Okay. So like the ELA, there are 3 samplers per subject per grade level. When I navigate into the question sampler, I see the option to select different accommodations to use them. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and select answer masking. Okay, just so, no, you know what? No, I'm not. I'm going to go, change my mind. I'm going to select reverse contrast because it's kind of cool looking on screen. How about that? Okay, what? Look at that. That's a black screen. Okay, so the reference sheet comes up because I'm in grade 6, but you will notice at the bottom that there is also a reference sheet as a tool in the tray that a student can move around on screen and can resize. Okay? So like ELA, the first few test questions are multiple choice. Okay, so a student also has the option to use the notepad, okay, and to set bookmarks. Okay. The highlighter even works in reverse contrast. Look at that. Except it's blue. It's no longer yellow. Answer eliminator continues to work. Okay. And then when we get to the end, the last few items are, again, the constructed response items. Okay. And here you can draw to respond. Okay. Draw a fish. Look at that. Maybe I've got 5 fish. Okay. Then I can add that drawing to my CR box. Okay. I can also resize that drawing to make it tinier. Look at that. I want it to be tiny, tiny, tiny. Okay. Right. And then I can use I can use my keyboard. I can also use the buttons on screen. Can use all sorts of things. And I can build equations. Okay. So here we are. And then when I go to the review screen, you'll see that I have 2 equation editor boxes here. The student's going to see an A and B. Look at that, 8A, 8B. Student knows that they haven't put anything in 8B yet and can navigate directly back to it. Okay, that's the test. Any questions? Questions yet? All right. Okay, well, what we're going to do is we're going to get on with the show. We're going to go back to the slides. We don't have much left here today, so let's just take a look at what else we have. I'm going to stop sharing the Google, and then I'm going to share again my slides. All right. Okay, and so now we're going to go to slide, let's go to slide 27. That's where we left off. Just making sure that folks know that, we want our students to have practice with the online question sampler. We want students to be familiar with those tools. You would never hand a student a pencil for the first time and ask them to take a paper test. On that same idea, we would not sit a student down in front of a CBT test and ask them to take the test for the first time. Our students, they've been raised on iPads. They can figure it out. We know that, but we still want to do our best to prepare our students. Okay? So it just gives you some more ideas of some screens for what those CR boxes look like. Okay? And then here, so we're going to talk. Let me go ahead and boom, make it big. All right. So the biggest lesson learned that we like to share is it's a model of administering CBT that our schools, districts actually came up with the first year of operational CBT. And we just thought this was mind-blowing. And in fact, we can thank Eastern Suffolk for also, paying attention to this and then suggesting that we also model the data in a similar way. So we don't load students into Nextera Admin for CBT according to instructional classrooms. We load them into a big giant, container of just grade 3 ELA students. And then our schools are able to set those students up in any way virtually that they want to test the students. But what we found is that this command center model is what most of our schools are using. If they don't use it in year 1, we find they start to use it in year 2. Right, so that was the trend last year, and that's also what we're hearing this year. Last year I tested according to instructional classes. This year I'm going to test just all grade 3 in Nextera Admin. The way that you test students in Nextera Admin does not need to match the way you're actually testing students in the school. You want Nextera Admin to be simple. So also what we hear is that you might have like a principal and a test coordinator that are sitting in a command center, right? Maybe they're sitting in the principal's office and they're watching Nextera Admin. Maybe you have technical coordinators on hand in the hallways. For instance, if a computer dies, if a student needs a power strip, if a student needs a new mouse. You might have somebody, they may not be a technical coordinator, they may be secretaries. in the hallway that are listening to see if your active proctors in the classroom need any help, okay? So that's a great model that we've heard, and we really like sharing that because we think that a lot of times, you know, we can see people in the audience mind blown, right? You know, because they're like, oh, you know, because there's so much flexibility with CBT that you really can devise it the way that it makes most sense in your classroom, in your school. Okay. So let's see, what else do we have? And keyboarding skills, right? We always get asked about this. And we like to remind folks that keyboarding skills have always been part of the New York State Learning Standards. Okay? So they are still part of the new New York State Next Generation Standards. But what we're doing is we're trying to make sure that our schools know it, that there's guidance out there, that the P12 Office of Instructional Support last year, they issued guidance on keyboarding so that our schools can have something to follow as a plan for how do they make sure that students are familiar with actual keyboards with those keys. When we've observed field testing, we've seen some 7th graders that are just pen pecking, right? And now maybe that's the way that they're going to type. Maybe they're not going to type in a typical WYSIWYG way because we know how students typically type today with their thumbs, right? They're typing with their thumbs. But we have also walked into some elementary schools where we saw 3rd graders with perfect typing skills. Made me cry. Couldn't believe it. These students were just typing their little hearts out, and the principal was very proud. She was sure to share with us that those students have been doing typing since kindergarten. Now, we know that's not possible for everybody, but we do want everyone to know that there are keyboarding skills guidance out there and where to find them, and they're in the slides. There's a direct link to the page of on NYSED for where you can find that guidance. And now, the schedule. What? Because we do a lot. We do a lot of outreach with CBT. I like to talk. I like to be on stages, and when I get an actual stage, it's really exciting. But we like to travel, and we do training. Every February, we go out throughout the state, and we offer training at least 6 to 8 different locations. And then we also do score point training in March. And one thing that we also had a fall tour. We do what's called an evangelical tour, where we go out throughout the state and we share the message about CBT, and we let schools ask us the hard questions because we're there to answer the hard questions and to try and make folks feel a little bit better and to know how exactly can I transition into CBT. But we have other webinar opportunities. We do these personal webinars. Anybody that asks, we will absolutely meet with you. If you have teachers that are nervous, we'll meet with them. We'll do whatever it takes to make sure that our schools have all of the information they need. On top of that, the regional information centers also run. I know that Eastern Suffolk, they have CBT discussions, and they send out newsletters, and they make sure that all of their schools are plugged in. So there's a lot of ways to be informed about CBT, including the CBT listserv. Yay! Anyone can join as long as they're using a educational organization email address. And we send out weekly messages. It's called CBT This Week. And we like to share what's new with CBT, training opportunities, the registration for Winter Tour, which is our February tour. That was launched just yesterday. But on Friday, even though I'm not working, I've got some Black Friday sales to get to, I'm still going to write the CBT This Week to make sure that all of our schools know that registration is available, that you too can come and see us in person. We're real. Okay. And if you're not ready for operational field testing, Rochelle, this is for you. This may be your year to do field testing, or at least try. We don't count how many students you're testing. You may only have 10 computers, but you too can participate in field testing on computer. Find out. See if Heather's lying. Is it as simple as she says it is? It is. But that's a great way for you to take that first step. Yep.
Is there a date? You said it's done statewide. Is there like a specific date, or we could just?
For field testing?
Yeah.
Well, what you need to do first is you need to log back into the ordering system and indicate that, and then there's a 3-week window for field testing. It's May 20th through June 7th. And you can test on any.
For practice testing.
Oh, well, yes. The simulation is February 26th or March 5th. And there's no actual mechanism that you're running it through. You're just running the dry run on your end. But that's the time when NYSED's going to be listening. Like, we're going to be on the phone lines. We're going to be helping. And that's where the rest of the state is all in it together. And then we are also going to run a readiness for the simulation webinar in early January.
Okay.
So that
If we want to be a part of this on February 25th or March 5th, who do we contact?
Nobody. You just run it. You can run it your own if you're not doing operational. But for those schools that do operational CBT, they're able to check a box on Nextera admin. But it doesn't do anything. It's just helping us plan so we know how many schools are going to be doing it. So what you would do is you would get this checklist for the simulation and just use that in your school to organize it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And work with your RICs. They're out there. They're listening. Yeah, they'll do it all. All right. Do you have any other questions, Rochelle? Since you're our VIP today.
Oh, is that really true? I'm it?
Yeah, you're it.
Okay.
I know. You're my favorite. So whatever you want, I will do.
Okay. Okay, I'm good.
Okay. Good. Great. All right, Sarah and Nabila, do you guys have any questions? Oh, I don't think we can hear you. Okay, thumbs up or thumbs
I see
down?
thumbs up. Nabila has thumbs up.
Oh,
so-
does she? Okay. All
Yeah.
right. Yay. Great, guys. All right. We want all of our schools in the Jewish Education Project to know that you're important to us and that we absolutely care. And we know that you may have some unique circumstances that are hindering your ability to transition. Let us know. We'll help you work it out. Okay? All right, guys. Goodbye.